The original work of the autobiographical novel 10 Years of Marriage by Su Qing, a female writer in the Republic of China. Chapter 8. Wu Shan's sorrowth weather is getting cold. Dairy lit a fire in the room. Firelight dance distancing like lingling like a charming smile in a garden. But their faces gradually became blurred. Far away, can't go see them. Off tent. So-called aunt took apart all the old clothes I left there and hid them. Prepare a caretaker to take her to the countryside to give her own grandnephew daughter a made-up cheongsam. The cloth is not made into a folder, just lining the soles of her own shoes. Old mother told me these words seem not stingy. What's sad is that the children are still wearing old robes and cotton trouser. Shows don't hurt your feet. It's just that the toe of the shoe is broken. Open your mouth to the lion. There isn't even anything new in my body. I heard that Shan paid a lot of money for daily expense, but our children are so cold. Of course he hates me. Visitinji can't bear to see how sad it is. Weather is getting cold. Againi just hide in my room and write all day long. That's a novel. The title is called Waning Moon. It can vent the pain in my heart. Keep reading, keep yourself busy, because when I have free time, I miss my children. Thinking of the loneliness in front of me, thinking of the bleak future, I couldn't help crying. Lu Sichen and Pan Zimai both attended the Asian Literary and Art Association. To think of the beautiful scenery of this silverous land. He also yearn for. There are many famous novelists in other countries. He don't understand their language. Only read the Chinese translation. I love that kind of gloomy contemplation. Quit beauty, passionate and classist. It is said that when they elected representatives to attend, Pan Zimai once suggested that I should go too, but Lu Sichen disagreed severely. Other people in the propaganda department also thought that women should be decorated by Miss Qi Yansheng, the women's editor. It has no status whatsoever, so I had to lose the election. In fact, it's okay if you don't go there. But I feel even more lonely living at home after a long time. Pan Zimai and the others came back. Lu Sichen responded to the completeness of the Bang Library, willing to stay with foreign friends temporarily. Daily Expo Clusteri won't come back with them for the time being. He asked Pan Zimai to ask for 3 months leave from China newspaper. The newspaper also allowed its salary is given. Pan Zimai founded a purely literary and artistic publication called Wen Guan. Said he would publish 7 major novels. Take the Waning Moon. I'm writing to make up the number. Of course, he doesn't think much of him. Put him in an unimportant position. However, unexpectedly actually gained a wide readership. Lu Sichen wrote to encourage me overseas. It is said that this is the most passionate work. It is not comparable to the ordinary people who are showing off nowadays. He also told Pan Zimai that this article should be ranked at the beginning of the volume. But how could Pan Zimai be willing to listen? He always thought that the sales of publications were driven by the titles of old writers such as Mr. Murin. I feel quite depressed and unhappy in my heart, but he didn't express any intention of starting his own publication from now on. In early spring, when plum blossoms are in booty, told Pan Zimai what I meant. Pan Zimai is a smooth person, naturally eager to help introduce me to many literati. Big and small. Let's go to Mr. Muran's house first. Muran lives in a dirty alley. The house is an old one. It's quite tidy and sitteth. There is a blue fire bowl in the classroom. The Aiden street is slightly red like dots of red forest shining bright limmer. Muran is wearing a torn high leather robe of purple ancient satin. Suddenly the head of the head, with a smile on his face, greeted us to sit down. Pan Zimai explained the purpose of my visit on my behalf. He agreed immediately. It was said that the paper will be corrected in 3 days. Naturally, I caught my eye. Thanks again. He has 11 children. There is no old lady at home. His wife cooks and washes the clothes herself. The eldest daughters also help it. After we sit down today, his second lady brought tea to him. We stood up in a hurry to say thank you. Mr. Murin even said you don't have to be polite. Let's sit down and talk casual. A strange smell. He picked up a long, dry pipe, breathing in the smoke. Let's talk over tone till dusk. Weather in the first month is cold, human, but warm. During the meal, they were all eager to help me with my designs. Once I met Poet Wu. Poet was actually willing to invite me to Salome for coffee. I sat down opposite him, ordered a cup of coffee each. It's actually a coffee substitute. He drank for more than half an hour. The poet told me a lot about his sense of justice and romanchi. Feel envious too. Unexpectedly, it's time to settle accounts. Spew had long been accustomed to delivering bills to poets. I'm also used to it. Not polite to him. Let him touch himself for a long time. If you throw a few cents, the account will fall. The extra reward is nothing. The poet picked up his account and left. He followed inexplicably. Later he would never give me a manuscript but published a narrative poem in another journal, probably because he is very poor. He only had these few cents left with me that day. I happened to pay the coffee bill for a woman again. As a result, he couldn't even eat dinner at night. Woman probably refers to me. But God knows Eve never touched his pocket show. Did you know that his entire property only consisted of these few cents? In fact, it's not intentional extortion. But he felt pain. He feels sad and refuses to write a poem for me even if there is no poetry. Finally, I thought of Zhu Guanglai again. He is a literary senior and he treated me very warmly. Have to ask him if his article is not clever. Zhu Guanglai heard that I wanted to start a magazine. Very happy. It is said that there is a famous painter Zhou Fan who is his old friend. He can ask him to design the cover for me. As for himself, wants to write an article for me praising that writer friend. After hearing this, I felt a little confused, but there is no way. He had to pretend to be happy. Thank you and leave. Unexpectedly, the next day Zhu Guanglai got another call. He said he went to Mr. Key's house last night. Key heard that I wanted to start a magazine. He also very happy. Say I am a woman with ambition. Zhu Guanglai told me again. Key also loved literature and art when she was in school. He really wanted to write a piece of life for submission. It's just that he is now a wealthy lady with status. I'm embarrassed to have the work delivered to my door. I have to give him advice first, make him happy. Think Mrs. Key is very knowledgeable. The knowledge is said to be pretty good. An editor asks a writer for a manuscript. It's not something to be ashamed of. I need to find more women to write my magazine, no matter rich or poor. So I agreed to go to Key Mansion once. Mrs. Key treats me very warmly. Mentioned asking her to write an article. Of course, she readily agreed. Later she told Miki and Yingjun will also edit a publication will be published soon. Key has written an article for them. We women should cooperate with women. Key smiled and said if I have any articles in the future it must be published in your journal. It's really rare for a woman to live a luxurious life like Himi actually thought of writing an article. On the third day, he sent his adjutant to come with a handwritten letter to invite me. They say the article has been written. Ask me to go and have a look. He arrived at the Kagong Hall around 11 a.m. The person in the concierge asked me because I have been here several times. Just let me keep going in through the large Gardango and city. I just want to wait in the living room downstairs. First, take out a business card from your wallet, give it to the adjutant, ask him to report it. Unexpectedly, the adjutant did not accept the business card I handed him. Jigong Shen said to Miss, please go upstairs. Me wife gave the order. Hesitated for a while. I had no choice but to walk upstairs gently. A pretty maid invited me to sit down in the sitting room. He said his wife was about to get up. God knows his house is so quiet. He was late playing cards last night, still sleeping. Nothing to do with my had to drink tea and read the newspaper alone while sitting down. The temperature in the water hall is very high. I took off my coat. Maid's fingers are very respectful. Bring tea and cigarettes is groveling. After a while, I saw the bedroom door open. Mr. Key came out wearing dark blue satin cotton pajamas. See me sitting upright on the sofa. He turned around and entered while smiling. He called Mrs. Key and said that the guests have arrived. Miss Su is outside. After a while, Mrs. Key also came out, rubbing her eyes. She greeted me affectionately, asked me to come into the room. Key dragged his slippers into the bathroom. Mrs. Key sat in front of the dressing table by herself. A maid was waiting for her to wash her face. While telling me about the content of the article, she naturally smiled to show my admiration. Washes his face and doesn't comb his hair. Other than he took me into Mr. Key's study. The study room is also an ordinary study room, not particularly particular. Even Mr. Key's clothes are very simple. He is a smart and alert man, and Mrs. Key is also a capable house help. That day he showed me the manuscript. Told me that the pen and ink have been neglected for a long time. If there is something wrong, please correct it for me. I want you to be my teacher. His words are so tactful and humble. I had to obey his order. Sitting in front of Mr. Key's desk, read his manuscript carefully. Stands next to me, give me pointers and explanations from time to time. He also asked the maid to bring milk from time to time. Give it to Miss Suthan. He asked me if I could add to eggs. Very attentive greeting. He writes fluently. Think it can't be changed at all. But every word is unjust. It would be a shame to live up to his good intentions. I had to change 2 words where it didn't matter. I wrote the pre-edited words next to it, not trying to take away what he wrote. Then say, Mrs. Key, please think about it again. Maybe it's better not to change. He scrawled out his original words without hesitation. Just use the changes I made. Then solemnly hand the manuscript to Mazo. It's time for lunch. He invited me to have dinner with him. Followed him out of the study room. A square table is placed in the living room. Get started with Mrs. Key. The left hand is Mr. Key. Sit on the right hand. There is also a dignified woman about 35 or 6 years old. According to Mrs. Key, she was Miss Lin. They are their fellow countrymen. Miss Bai, who took care of the housework for them, was nowhere to be seen. When I asked Himmers, Ki told me that the nanny took him to his grandmother's house. Ki was sitting opposite me, wearing a dark gray cotton robe. I couldn't help but look at him secretly. His face is very clear, act calmly and generously. It attracts the most attention is his eyes gazing at people with deep eyes. Suddenly his eyes froze, like meditating on something. But in an instant it returned to normal, talking and laughing. It seems that the problem has been solved in his mind. He is so sensitive and fiercey man with knowledge, courage and meance. No, they're extremely smart person. It's a pity that I took the wrong step. His temper is different from that of Prime Minister Kim. Nowhere's close talking and laughing make it easy for people to get close to him. Dishes are served. Only 6 bowls of soup stewed in a hot pot. It's a fat chicken with ham and vegetables. They say Su to Memis, please drink more soup. Warmer, in fact, the water is clear if the heat is appropriate. You won't feel cold even if you don't drink soup. Compared with the harsh north wind outside, I really think this place is a blessed place where gods live. If a literati also had this power, let him write warmly written very carefully and carefully. Wouldn't it be good? The chicken was badly cooked. Some original Jicheno water added ether just scooped out. The oil appears to taste more delicious. However, the 3 of them seem to have lost their appetites. Mr. Ki drank half a glass of wine. Just asked the waiter to serve him rice. The rice bowl is real. Go pick out some more food first. There are enough for 3 or 4 bites. Then scoop some clear soup into the bowl with food, even if it's just so muckmers. He finally managed to eat a piece of hummus. Lin also drank a few mouthfuls of soup as if she couldn't swallow anything. I'm embarrassed to eat like crazy alone. It's just that cow eat half a bowl of rice. The angry wife saw what she was thinking. Sighs, the Joby must ask the waiter to bring me half a bowl. I watched them all put down their chopsticks. He very anxious. He had to swallow the rice in a hurry. It was Mrs. Ki who brought me some vegetables. The meal is finished. The waiter brings some fruit. Speak with conscience. I did not eat enough that day. He came home hungry. Envy being a servant of a rich family. They have big chickens and meat, which makes them comfortable to eat. Dining as a guest is like being employed. Finally finished a program. From now on I can take a nap peacefully. I took my leave after dinner. I took the car to the printing office to have Mrs. Ki's article resumed. I'll be busy for a few more days. The magazine will be published on time. The magazine, edited by Qian Yingjun, was published a few days before me. 4,000 copies sold. I thought to myself, I hope mine can be as popular as his. One day Mr. Ki happened to talk to me about the question, how many copies of my first issue will I print? I said I wanted to print 3,000 copies. Don't know if it can be sold or not. Paused for a moment and said, isn't it too little? I'd say it's better to be more cautious. Qian Yingjun's magazine actually sold 4,000 copies. Show can I compare to him? Print Marie, if you can't sell them all, you'll lose money. Mr. Ki just nodded. Later, someone else told me it turns out that the magazine edited by Qian Yingjun was bragged to Mr. Ki by Zhu Guangladolg about selling 10,000 copies. Soon unexpectedly, I accidentally revealed his secret. Ki is unwilling to take care of Othersi was embarrassed to say this to Zhu Guang. Zhu Guanglai told Qian Yingjun again, that's why Qian Yingjun hates me to the core. How difficult it is to be a human being. Me magazine published 3,000 copies, sold out soon. An additional 2,000 copies were printemers. He was very happy to hear Thiscum and chat with me. Congratulate my, said Mrs. Ki. All depends on the appeal of your articles. Your face will get hot again if you say I know utilitarian men should be noble. You shouldn't be pretentious with your words, especially for rich and powerful people, even if he is really nice. You said it to him. It also sounds like you are trying to flatter others. It is said that a scholar should do the opposite, pay to the rich and bow to the poor and humble. Although the working people have had regular relationships, but someone praised it. But I really can't bear not to thank Mrs. Ki for her kindness. She makes me happy, make her happy too. What's wrong with this? So she often invited me to play at her house, take me out. So sometimes I feel very hard and busy. Body is almost so tired that I feel sick. On a certain night in March, Panzimai suddenly said that someone invited us to dinner. I asked who it was. He said that there was a Mr. Zhang in Suzhou who had great potential. You run a large magazine in Shanghai. You invited a writer tonight. The purpose was nothing more than to solicit manuscripts. I had nothing to do anyway, so I went to the banquet with Panzimai. It was in Mr. Zhang's mansion in Shanghai. His official wife had passed away, but he had many girlfriends who lived in the mansion alone. He took them in and out without hesitation. He also publicly told people that this was my mistress. The women naturally urged him, but they could do nothing about it. He did not believe in love. To be honest, the love of middle-aged people is naturally about money and beauty. It is said that he is a spy chief. When Panzimai and I took a tricycle to his house, the living room was already full of people. Panzimai and I walked in side by side. We saw that the walls of the living room were all decorated in rose color, except for the sofa. The tables, chairs, etc. were all painted black and painted in gold. It looked unique. After we entered, we stood in the room for a while. A short and fat man, with a shaved head and a blue cloth gown, came up to me and asked if this was Miss Su. I was at a loss. He smiled and said, "My name is Zhang Lai." At the same time, he pulled over a middle-aged woman wearing a long cheongsam with a sharp chin and bright eyes. "This is Miss Guo. Today I came to pay my respects to Miss Su." Miss Guo nodded to Miss Guo. Miss Guo didn't really pay any attention to that Zhang Li. Then he went on to say that I admired Miss Su's articles very much in the future. We must ask Miss Su to help write articles for our magazine. He modestly said that I really couldn't do it. I recently edited another magazine, so I had even less time to write. Speaking of theses, suddenly remembered that I shouldn't be perfunctory with Miss Guo. So I changed the subject and said that I would ask Miss Guo to help me more in the future. My magazine welcomes female writers to contribute articles. Miss Guo, are you willing to agree? Miss Guo's eyes flashed coldly with her eyelash aloud and said that I can't write any articles. He was so arrogant that I didn't have any reason to be arrogant. So I stopped step on him until Zizong. During the dinner, Zhang Lai suggested that we go to Suzhou tomorrow. He will leave tonight to arrange everything. There, Suzhou has many scenic spots, especially Tianping-Lingian and other mountains. The scenery is beautiful. There are also many centipede relics and legends of wild people. It makes people feel sad. We have been in the city for a long time. It is inevitable to be affected by the worldly air. Now we can cleanse our hearts. Since family affairs are not a big deal, it is worth worrying about a little bit. The blue sky and white clouds are leisurely. We have finally temporarily escaped from the heavy work and the noise of the city, and arrived in Suzhou, a paradise on earth. Thinking of the hard work in the past, the stormy waves, and the uncertain future, I can't help but feel mixed emotions. Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.